And we start with the things we need to do, which is some homework and a quiz. Homework 7 due on Tuesday, which is the 26th. Let me check that. Yep, Tuesday is the 26th. And then quiz number 4 is due the same day. And we're still working on the notes for homework 7. So we need to go over factoring and then solving an equation using factoring. And the last thing we were factoring were trinomials. This first one, we are going to factor using this diamond for guessing and checking. It's 6x squared minus 13x and subtract 5. Okay, so there's this method where we set up this big X and you put the ends and multiply them together. 6 with negative 5 is negative 30. That goes in the top. The middle number goes down here, negative 13. And then you fill in the sides. You need two numbers that multiply to negative 30 and add to negative 13. I mean, a possibility is 1 in 30, but negative 1 times 30 won't add to negative 13. So let's try 2 and 15. And I'll make the 15 again. So let's multiply to negative 30, add to negative 13. And to use those numbers to rewrite the middle term. The 6x squared minus 13x minus 5 as 6x squared plus 2x minus 15x. Okay, now we're going to group this first pair together, second pair together, and from the first two, factor out 2x, which would leave 3x plus 1. These two terms, we're going to factor out negative 5. Here we'd have a positive 3x and then a positive 1. There are now two terms, this one and then subtract that one. From both of the terms, we have a common factor of 3x plus 1, which I'm going to bring to the front. first term and it leaves 2x. And here there's a negative 5. And then that was the goal, to get a factored form or written as a product. Okay, for the next few, I want to explain how to use the grid. So we're going to factor . Eight r squared minus, let's see, it's actually plus 2r, then minus 1. So this time I'm going to copy that down. And then split up the terms and keep the sign with its like value. That plus sign goes with 2r, the minus sign goes with 1. Then we're going to underline that. That's the grid. On this end, you get two numbers that multiply to 8r squared. Like 8r times r, or I'm going to try 4r times 2r as my first guess. And over here, two numbers that multiply to -1. I have to try something like 1 and -1 and just kind of guess on where it should go. All right, so we cross multiply. 2r times 1 is 2r. 4r times -1 is -4r. And then you add up the ends. So if you get the middle term, then we have the right factors in each row, but it didn't work out this time. This will add to -2r. And the middle term is a positive 2r. So we're just going to try again. It's 8r squared plus 2r minus 1. Two numbers that multiply to 8r squared. I'm going to stick with 4r and 2r. And then this time we're going to try positive 1 here and the -1 over there. And then you multiply to -1. 4r times 1 is 4r. 2r times -1 is -2r. Add the ends together, and this time it's positive 2r, which is what I was looking for. Okay, so we're going to write this as 4r minus 1 multiplied with 2r plus 1. And that's our factored form. So that's the answer. So just a reminder, like everything I just erased, it was a guess. All of these methods require guess and check. If you don't get the right guess, just guess again until you do. Five x squared. And add 18x. And subtract 8. You can use any method you want. I'm going to keep using this grid. Rewrite your polynomial. And we split this up with the plus sign on 18x and minus sign on 8. Make a guess. Two numbers that multiply to 5x squared. 5x times x. Two numbers that multiply to negative 8. I'm thinking 4 times negative 2, but it's just one of my guesses. We'll see if it works. If not, we'll guess again. This would be 5x times negative 2x, negative 10x. And x times 4 is 4x. So let's add to so negative 6x. I'm looking for this middle term, which I didn't get, so I'm going to try again. It's 5x squared, add 18x and subtract 8. Okay, let's keep 5x times x on this side. That's my 5x squared. And on this side, we're just going to switch those spots. Put negative 2 up here. Try positive 4 over here. Those multiply to negative 8. And then cross multiply. This is negative 2x. And over here is positive 20x. And then you add up the ends. 20x with negative 2x is going to be 18x. And that's your middle term. So I've got the right guess. This will factor into 5x minus 2 times x plus 4. Okay. 5x and then subtract 2. The other factor is 4x, positive x, add 4. Okay, and then I want to just explain, if you're not comfortable going from here to this answer, if you want to do the work in between, it's the same process as the diamond, where we rewrite the middle term. but the numbers you use to rewrite this would be on the side, the negative 2x and the positive 20x. So with this grid, I know I kind of trust that I find the right factors every time, but if you don't trust it, I'll show you how to work through the problem to get here. So that comes from taking the 5x squared, rewriting 18x, using the numbers on the side. So it's 5x squared minus 2x plus 20x. And then you factor by grouping. These pair, things there. Here, all I can factor out is an x. 5x minus 2. This, let's factor out 4. And it would leave a 5x minus 2. And this term and this term, factor out the 5x minus 2. X is 4. Just making sure we got the right answer just by going through all that. So this grid is very useful when you have more than one variable. This time we factor 3a squared minus 5ab. And subtract 2b squared. So there's an a and a b, two variables. I like to use this grid. Copy this polynomial down. And then you draw the lines so that the negative is with the 5ab. That negative goes with 2b squared. Then we do our first guess. Here we get two numbers that multiply to 3a squared, like 3a times a. On this side, we need two numbers that multiply to negative 2b squared, like negative 2b times b. And let's see if it worked. So I would cross multiply. Let's go with a times negative 2b, negative 2ab. Okay, this way, 3a times b is positive 3ab. And then you add the sides together, and we got AB, just one AB, which is not my middle term. I need a negative 5AB. So we're going to try again. Write down that polynomial. And draw the grid. I'm going to stick with 3a times a. But on this side, let's put the negative 2b here and the b. And those multiply to negative 2b squared. And then we cross multiply. A times b is ab. 3a times negative 2b would be negative 6ab. And add the sides. This would be a negative 5ab. That is the middle term, so I got the right guess. And I would take that polynomial over here. Okay, then this factors into, or is equal to, 3a plus b. Times a minus 2b. Go straight across. And again, if you want to do the work from there to there, what you do is you rewrite the middle term, the negative 5ab, using the sides of the grid. So you use instead of that, you replace it with these and use factoring by grouping. You'll get that same. This time it's 2x squared. Subtract 7xy. And subtract 4y squared. So definitely when there's two variables, like you have an x and a y, I would use the grid. Just copy this down. Split this up so that the negative goes with the 7xy, the other negative goes with 4y squared. Okay, two numbers that multiply to 2x squared, 2x times x. Two numbers that multiply to negative 4y squared. You could do 4y with a negative y, which I think we should try. I was going to maybe try 2y times 2y, but let's try negative y and 4y. Okay. Across. This would be negative xy. then multiply across to get positive 8xy. And then you add this together to be positive 7xy, which is very close to the middle term, but not quite. So we'll guess again, and I think I'll just put the negative sign on the other number. So it didn't work out. Actually, I need some space. Again, this cool question. So what I'm trying to get for this style of guess and check is on the side when I add the ends, I'm trying to get the middle number, which is a negative 7xy, but I got a positive 7xy. So that's why I need to guess again. I'm just going to copy this down. I'm going to keep this side how it is. And on the other side, we're going to try positive y on the top and negative 4y on the bottom. Those multiply to the negative 4y squared, then you cross multiply. This is xy. This side is a negative 8xy. And now I add the ends on the side. This time I get the negative 7xy, which is that middle term. And if you get a value that matches this middle term here, then we found the factors in each row. It's going to be 2x plus y times x minus 4y. So that polynomial we were given is going to factor to 2x plus y. Multiply it with x minus 4y. And if you're not comfortable going from the polynomial to the factored form, what you can do is, by showing your work, you rewrite the middle term, the negative 7xy, using those numbers on the side. You would replace it with xy minus 8xy, and then use factor by grouping. I always do that with the diamond method, because sometimes I don't always get the right answer if I just go to a shortcut. But with this grid, unless I've made a big typo or something like that, I usually just get the right factors. Don't worry about doing. I mean, it never hurts to check your work, but if you're in a rush, I'm okay with jumping from here to here. All right, let's do factoring in difference of squares. So I think, so I have a question about, I guess I'm just gonna hold off on doing this part. So just a question about how to simplify, and I guess that means maybe how to get from here to here, which we talked through, but we can always stop and write down. So we had our polynomial. Back to this part here. 2x squared minus 7 x y minus 4y squared. And then back to that grid we had before, the sides were xy and negative 8xy. So we go here, copy that part, replace this part with those sides. And then just copy this part down. And then you do factoring by grouping. We'll put this first pair together. And then the next pair together. And factor an x out of this one. Leave a 2x plus y. We're going to factor negative 4y out of the next pair, which would leave a positive 2x and positive y. And then you've got this number and this number. From both of them, you can factor out 2x plus y. And then this would leave an x and then minus the 4y. That should be that answer over there. Yep. They match. Okay. And then also, by the way, like after doing this factoring a difference of squares, we're going to start to solve by factoring. So I'll go back and like be explaining the grid a few more times at the end of class. Let capital A and capital B be real numbers. If you're looking at A times B, is equal to 0, what do you know about A or B? So again, it's some number times another number, and you have it equal to 0. So either you've got 0 times that number equals 0, or you've got B equal to 0, or both of them are 0. You've got 0 times 0, which is 0. So one of them has to be 0, one or the other or both. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the wrong thing. I'm jumping ahead. We're going to get to this part soon. Let A and B be real numbers. This part is coming soon. This is a different property. The difference of squares looks like this. You have a number squared. And then there's a difference between them. So you subtract the other number squared. A squared minus B squared equals A times A minus B times A plus B. There we go. That's the right. Topic. So we're going to go from here, writing a number squared and then subtraction and then another number squared over to the factored form. A minus B times A plus B, which is the same as A plus B either one works. You can have the A minus B times A plus B, or the other way around, A plus B times A minus B. And then we're just going to practice a few of these. So when you want to go use the difference of squares, we're looking for two terms and then subtraction or a difference between them. And then try to see if you can write the first term as a number squared and try to get that other value as some number squared. So here we've got squared matches the number squared, and then subtraction, and then 25 is 5 squared. So got that form. So I'm going to write x minus 5 times x plus 5 as a factored version. Factor x to the 10th minus 100. So I'm going to try to do the difference of squares. I have two terms and subtraction between them. So I'm going to see if I can get this as a number squared. And then 100 I know is going to be 10 squared. So to have a power 2, I can have x to the 5th then squared. So when you have a power to a power, you multiply those numbers together to get that positive 10. And I'm trying to have that like the form of the difference of squares. So that's my number squared, then subtract 10 squared. Now I can write x to the 5th minus 10 times x to the 5th plus 10. 47x squared minus 9. Just copy stuff. So I want this to be, I'm going to try to see if I could get this as a number squared. It's going to be 7x squared. And there's the subtraction. And another number squared, which is 3 squared is 9. Now I've got a difference of squares. So I take 7x and subtract 3, multiply it with 7x plus 3. Another one, we're going to factor. Three x cubed y minus 3xy. So anytime you factor anything, try to take out the greatest common factor first. So that's what we're going to start with. Three is common to both terms, so we'll factor that out. There's an x in each of these. So if we factor out 3xy, it'll leave x squared minus 1. And then what's in this parentheses is the difference of squares. I can write x squared minus 1 as x squared minus 1 squared. And then write this as a product of a difference of squares. So copy down the 3xy. And then this is going to be x minus 1 times x plus 1. And that's like fully factored. Okay, so now I'm going to go over an idea that I started to talk about, but what is called is the zero product property. So we have two numbers, A and B. And if you multiply them together and get 0, one of them or both of them has to be 0. And or again, means that you've got A equal to 0, or B is equal to 0, or both. So one, the other, or both. Let's look at something like, so in this kind of problem, there's going to be an equal sign. So you're solving an equation. So your instructions are probably just going to say solve. Whereas before we had simplify. With simplify, we're just trying to write your expression with as few terms as possible and like all of your like terms together, just as easy as it can be to read. With solve, you have to find values of the variable that make the statement true. Okay, solving x minus 1 times x plus 5 equal to 0. My x minus 1 is going to represent A, and x plus 5 is B. So A times B equals 0. Either this is equal to 0 or this is equal to 0. And then I often like highlight this, the or, because you've got two equations, or maybe a couple equations that come out of this property. So if this side or that side, and we're going to work them out separate. If x minus 1 equals 0, add 1 to each side, and x will equal positive 1. On this side, we're going to subtract 5 on each side, get x equal to negative 5. Solve 2x squared minus 5x equal to 0. So what we're going to use is we're going to solve by factoring and applying this property. And the part of the property needs to have this side that equals to 0. So you have to, well, actually have that. We've got our polynomial equal to 0. So that's good. On the other side, we need a product. So over here, we're going to factor. We're just factoring out an x. Which would be 2x minus 5 is equal to 0. So we've got x times 2x minus 5 equal to 0, either x equals 0 or the 2x minus 5 equals 0. And then from the two equations, like just look at them separate. The first one is already done. X equal to 0 is one of your solutions. Over here, we'll solve for x. So add 5 to both sides. Then divide both sides by 2 to get x equal to 5/2. We want to solve x squared minus 10x plus 21 equal to 0. In order to use the property, we need to have a number times a number equal to 0. So the equal to 0 part is taken care of. That's where I would start. On this side, we're going to write this as a product. We're going to factor this. And I liked using the grid to factor a trinomial. So you take the x. Take this x squared. Put down negative 10x plus 21. So for my scratch work, I'm just trying to factor this side on like separate paper or something like that. Two numbers that multiply to x squared would be x times x. Two numbers that multiply to 21. Like, I'm thinking 7 times 3. But I also want to cross multiply and have the sides add up to negative 10. So we're going to try negative 7 and negative 3. Just multiply to positive 21. And across, you get negative 7x. And this way is a negative 3x. And you're going to add the sides together to negative 10x. Which was the goal. I wanted a negative 10x because that's my middle term. So I did get the right guess. And also, the zero product property is like the only new topic for today. The rest of class is just practicing how to use it to solve equations. You need to get everything equal to 0, and you need to factor one side and then apply the property. So this is already equal to 0. Then we're going to factor this side. It's x minus 7 times x minus 3. And then from here to here, it's using the zero product property. Either this number is 0 or that number is 0. And just as a side note, I've had students mention that they're used to only using symbols in a math class, but it's just going to start to be the case that you need to include some words here and there. This or is very important. So you kind of, I always write down it's this or that. It's okay if you just kind of find your solutions really quickly, but you do have two equations, this one or that one. Over here, you get x equal to 7. Over here, add 3 to each side, so x will equal 3. Okay, we want to do solve 4x squared equal to 81. So the solve part means find values of the variable that make this statement true. To do that, we're going to use the property. So to use the property, we need a number times a number equal to 0. So get this equal to 0. I would take 4x squared equal to 81 and subtract 81 from each side. 4x squared minus 81 equal to 0. So that was my first goal, equals 0. Next goal is write this side as a product or factor this side. This is going to be a difference of squares. I can take the 4x squared and write it as 2x squared. Subtract 81, which is 9 squared. Okay, so this side is now a difference of squares. So it's going to be 2x plus 9 times 2x minus 9. Okay. So we've gotten to a place where we can use the property. It's this number times number equals 0. One of the numbers has to be 0. The first one is 0. The other number, 2x minus 9. 0. Let's solve the first equation. Subtract 9 from each side. Divide both sides by 2. X will be equal to -9/2. Right, other side, or other solution. Add 9 to each side. And divide both sides by 2. So X is equal to +9/2. Then we're going to do this one, and might be our last example for today. We've got x minus 6 squared, and we're solving it. It's equal to 6 plus 5x. So one goal is to have this somehow equal to 0, but also we want to expand the problem, combine like terms, and then whatever's left over is what we want to factor. So start with expanding this side, x minus 6 times x minus 6. Over here, we FOIL x times x is x squared. Then there's a minus 6x and another minus 6x, which is a minus 12x. And then plus 36. All right, now I can try to get this equal to 0 by subtracting the 6 from both sides, and I'm also going to subtract the 5x from both sides. You can do this as 2 steps, but I'm going to do it all at once. Okay, on this side is 0. 6 minus 6 is 0. 5x minus 5x is 0x. It's just a 0. On the other side, there's the x squared. And this would be a negative 17x. And plus 30. Okay, so the next goal is to write this side as in factored form. So that way you can take the one factor times the other factor, it's equal to 0. Set both of them equal to 0. I would think about doing this factoring as scratch work. So it's over on the side or on a different piece of paper. Just looking at this piece for a minute. I'm trying to we want to factor it, and that negative needs to go with the 17x, and that positive goes with 30. X times x is x squared. Go on, and 2 times 15 is multiplied at 30. And I need the sides to add to negative 17x. So I'm going to try the negative sign on this. Oh, wait. That means I need a negative sign here too. That way this times this is positive 30. And then let's see if that's the right guess. X times negative 15x. It's negative 15. X times negative 2. It's negative 2x. Add this stuff together on the side. Got negative 17x. Which was the middle term. So I did get the right guess. Okay, so this is just on the side. Going back over to what we're trying to solve. And this part factors into x minus 2 times x minus 15. You guys can see this. All right, let's just try this. Looks cool. So now I've got this times this equals 0, which means either that number is 0 or that number is 0. So we're going to put x minus 2 equal to 0 and x minus 15 equal to 0. I'm going to put that other piece over here. So it's the other factor of x minus 15. It could have been equal to 0. Okay, we're on this one. We're going to add 2 to both sides and get x equal to 2. That's one solution. There's another solution. Yeah, 15 to each side. Get x equal to 15. I think that's going to be the end of class. Pretty much. So just back to just talking through what we did. So this is where we started. And then we expanded one side. And the goal, that reason is so that we can combine like terms. And then as we combine like terms, we want a 0 on one part of your equation, like the left side or the right side. So once you get this set equal to 0, and all other terms on the other side, factor that part if possible. And set each of the factors equal to 0 using the property. Okay, we might practice a little bit more next week, but for now, we'll just call it good. Thank you, especially those of you who are in class.